Oakland officials say there was already an open investigation into the warehouse after numerous complaints filed by neighbors that trash was piling up outside the property and that people were illegally living in the building, which was zoned as a warehouse. For more, we are joined now by retired New York City Fire Department Lieutenant Frank Papalia, who has over 20 years of experience with the FDNY and 30 years experience as a volunteer firefighter. All right, Lieutenant, thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure.
I want to start off with the construction of this building, because officials have reported that the only way down from the second floor of this building was down a makeshift staircase of wooden pallets. Can you just talk about the effect that construction and design of a building would have on the escape routes and survivability in case of a fire?
Sure, absolutely. So the building was intended use was as a warehouse. It was converted, and as you can see from the pictures you've had on your screen, they converted it into an artist residence, really, where they stayed and worked. Now, the use as a warehouse, there was no intention for people to be upstairs, so there were no stairways. When they did that, they took their own lives into their hands by putting those pallets there. In addition, the threshold for fire safety is different in different types of occupancies. It's lower for a warehouse than it is for a residential place. And that's why the fire was able to spread that fast, and the people were not able to get down.
So in terms of just working smoke detectors, fire alarms, sprinklers, there would not have necessarily been the same requirements as if this had been zoned residential? Absolutely,
absolutely. There was no sprinkler system, and there probably were not enough smoke detected for it.
So would that take away a criminal culpability with respect to a building being required to have it if there was, in fact, no working sprinkler, no working smoke detector, smoke alarm?
I guess the culpability might come into why was it being used contrary to the intended use? There were no permits filed. You can't set a public assembly space up in a building like that without permits. So I don't know where the investigation will lead them to that. I know that their buildings department is on top of that from watching your reports.
You've got decades of experience working as a firefighter, decades of experience with the FDNY. We heard Carter Evans, a reporter there in Oakland, describe the scene as firefighters going bucket by bucket through this debris. Can you just talk about the difficulty in trying to recover bodies in a situation like this?
Sure. It's reminiscent of 9/11. The conditions are terrible. It's not just a pile of wood. You have burnt wood, you have stuff that's going to collapse, nails, things like that. Plus, you also want to maintain the integrity not of the building, but of what's now the victims. So it is a painstaking operation to remove the materials to be able to get to people.
And as far as we know, officials have not been able to reach the area that was the source of the fire. How difficult might that be? How long would you anticipate something like that would take?
Well, that's cause and origin. That's the fire marshals will be on top of that. It's a very difficult task to begin with, but since everything collapsed and the fire, from hearing, was reported on the first floor, the roof collapsed, the second floor collapsed. A lot of material has to come out until they're able to do it. It's a science. The clues will take them to it. It's going to take them time. They just have to remove the stuff to be able to see certain patterns, burn patterns, and things like that.
Last question I have for you, Lieutenant. Talk about the emotional toll. We heard a little bit from the officials there about just the devastation, obviously, that they have witnessed and the inability for those rescuers who went into that scene and those first responders and who were not able to save everyone.
It's a very emotional thing when you go to a fire and you remove someone who was deceased in the fire. The firemen that are there, and I hope it doesn't happen, I know it's going to, they're going to second guess themselves. What if I drove down this other block? What if I went in this door? What if I made a left instead of a right? It's going to be something that they're going to have to really come to terms with and hopefully get some counseling. It's a very difficult for them.
All right. Frank Papalia, retired New York City Fire Department Lieutenant, thank you so much.